and they can catch up on the video. So first of all, thank you very much for joining this discussion, for joining today's webinar on the institutional fundraising. And on behalf of Nexell and Salesforce.org, I would like to thank you again for being here and to welcome you. Before deep diving into the discussion and the topic, institutional fundraising and so on, I'd like to give you a very short introduction by myself. My name is David Derrier. I'm regional manager at Nexell. Nexell is a consulting company specialized in Salesforce, and basically, to make a long story short, we help organizations and companies, non-profit and corporate, to work more efficiently, to optimize their processes, via the implementation of Salesforce CRM solutions. And today, this event was organized in collaboration with Salesforce.org. I also wanted to give you a few explanations about why we are doing these kind of events. So for those who know Nexell, you might be quite a lot in the audience already, you know that we have a strong non-profit focus. We work, 50% of our activity is with non-profits. So this is a core of our day-to-day activities. And we very often organize training sessions, webinars, and so on. And this is for us a way to give back to the community, especially the non-profit community in Switzerland. And these events are also a way to share with you, to share knowledge, to share expertise, to share best practices. And this is even more important in these tough times, because needless to say that in 2020, with the COVID crisis, the COVID context, we saw so many things happening, many changes, mainly, I would say, in the nonprofit environments, and especially in the fundraising side of things. Because raising funds without meeting people, doing some grant request and submission without meeting the organizations and without meeting the grant makers, it's something very complex. And we saw, and we are still seeing, that grant management is skyrocketing. This is quite impressive to see the trends in the market, the trends in different organizations. And we really wanted in this webinar to share expertise, best practices, and knowledge, but with a bit of a strategic touch, because we didn't want to focus on technical aspect and so on. We really wanted to have a really strategic touch. And to do that, we are very happy to welcome today 3 keynote speakers. So we will have Abina and Emily from A Community and Claudia from Salesforce.org. And as you probably saw in the agenda, we're going to cover, let's say, 2 main topics. First, Emily and Abina will share some tips and strategies to do successful institutional fundraising nowadays. So the goal is also to be in line with the current context and environment. And then Claudia will present some ways of improving and boosting the key account management with Salesforce by leveraging data and using the technology to work more efficiently. At the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So to keep in control of the time, I kindly ask you to ask the questions in the chat box that you'll see in Google Meet, and we'll take the questions at the end. In case we don't have time to cover all the questions during the Q&A session, we'll follow up individually with you. One thing to mention as well, and to thank you for joining this session, we will of course record the session and share it with you, and we will also offer to the attendees a free 90-minute session of consulting with Nexell and or Salesforce and or A Community, depending on how we can help you. So you will receive a questionnaire after the presentation, and if you want to benefit from this free of charge consulting session, we will be more than happy to follow up with you. Perfect. So now let's kick it off. I will hand it over to Emily and Abina to launch the presentation. And again, thank you for joining, and I really hope you're going to enjoy these presentations.
Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen.
We can see it now. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Go. Abina, I think you're still on mute.
We can't hear you.
Maybe there was a setting first from the organizer of the webinar.
No, everybody can unmute themselves. So, Lina, you should just need to click on the microphone and it should be fine.
There, yeah, it's fine. Sorry about that. I'm not used to Google Meet. I'm used to Zoom. Anyway, thank you very much. I think it's, you can hear me now. We're very happy to be here. As you heard, we're a community, Emily and myself. We're a collective of independent associates with a complementary fundraising experience. We understand the complexity of fundraising, so we're happy that our diverse experience is brought to our clients to help them with strategic and operational support. We work for not-for-profit organizations. We value the importance of building fundraising capacity. So in 2018, Emily and I decided to create what we call the fundraising boot camps. And today's session is inspired from these workshops where we work with organizations or different organizations or with organizations themselves to build fundraising capacity. And we use collective intelligence and really try and leverage people's knowledge for them to be more efficient with fundraising. The session is not that long, so we'll try to bring about a few key strategic points. And as you know, we can't cover everything, but we hope that we'll give you a few tips, so a few game changers about fundraising.
Okay, great. So I just want to make sure everybody can see the fundraising cycle now.
Yes, all good.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just have a few minutes, and as Abina said, we'll try to give you the best tips we can in about 20 minutes now with us. So the fundraising cycle, for those who don't know what that is, it's the key stages that are very important when you're doing fundraising to take into consideration when you're doing fundraising. This is also something that you find most of the time in the tools like Salesforce, for example, that you can use. To be efficient, you really need to spend time and resources on each of these steps. They're all very important, and this is what will help you really build a strategy. So that's true for institutional fundraising, but it also for other types of fundraising, whether it's high net worth individuals or small donations. So basically, to build a strategy, you will need to go through this whole process, which starts with identification, then goes to qualification, cultivation, solicitation, and stewardship. So very quickly, I'm going to give you a quick definition for each of the steps for people who might not know what the fundraising cycle is, or if you haven't really heard about this very specific fundraising terms. So identification, it's when you research all the potential donors from varied sources. So it could be organizations, individual public funds, private funds, corporations. Then you go to qualification, and this is where you select among all the identified prospects that you found, those who could potentially fund your activity and your organization based on some criteria. You then go to cultivation. So once you know that there is a match, you start building a relationship of trust with organizations or individuals you would like to request funds from, and engage with them through discussion. You can inform them about what you're doing, what is your impact, for instance. Then you go to the fourth steps, which is actually the point where you ask for money. So it could be done through different channels, depending on how you're doing your fundraising. And the final step is that you have stewardship. Most of the time it's very neglected, but still very important. This is how you will maintain actually the relationship with your donors. So how you're going to thank them, recognize them, inform them, report. And with all of that, you can really develop a strategy and have a set of coherent action to really meet the financial objective that you're trying to reach. So we'll go quickly through each of these steps.
So as we said, we really would like to give you what we see as the 5 game changers that are very important for each one of these stages. And as it was mentioned before, it's really about the relationship, but also data, the data that you use, information that you collect, how we leverage it. So for the identification section, what we see as the 5 game changers is to ensure you have a database to collect relevant information. So their data is super important. And to use a tool that actually really reflects your needs. So it's understanding the cycle very clearly so that you can say, you know, we would like to do X, Y, Z, and have a tool that responds to that. To be clear on the type of institutional donors you wish to target, which ones are suitable for you. Make sure that you have several and diverse sources where you can actually find these new prospects, because you know there's always quite a lot of competition out there for great charities, great causes. So you need to keep renewing your sources of prospects in your database, and that's not something you do just before you're going to raise funds. It's an ongoing activity. And always have sufficient. Oh yeah, so I've said that. Allocate sufficient time to searching for the prospects. It takes time, so that's something that has to be done, and dedicate the resources and try and make it as systematic and as easy and efficient as possible.
So now that you've done a great work, like listing all the prospects you can find in the world, just that, then you can go to the qualification phase. So you need to look for the right information. So this is really where you will actually choose to who you want to talk to, and not be a beggar, to take the title of this webinar again. You look for the right information, you look for the mission, you look for the geographical reach, you look for the types of organizations, donor support, if there are deadlines, other specific criteria. And this is also where you can really position yourself as well. If you have an ethical charter, for example, if you do not want to work with some organization, you narrow down all your prospects to prioritize the ones that are the most aligned with your mission. Then you allocate the prospects to the best suited projects. This is where you need to look into your activities and not just say, okay, I'm going to go to this one because I love what they're doing, but you need to really match also with your activities, with your project. If you have many, define, okay, maybe which one they would be interested by this project more specifically for that and that reason. It's very important to have a timeline and objective. How many prospects do you want to qualify and solicit per month? This is not the most, this is not the funniest part of fundraising. So it's always good to have precise objective or something you try to achieve every month, so you make sure that you get the ball rolling. And ensure that you have sufficient prospects to increase your chance of full funding of your prospects. So you can mix cold and direct contacts if possible. Also note that the conversion rate, especially for institutional fundraising, is very low. Most of the time it's rarely above 6%. So you really need to make a lot of requests and have a lot of prospects to make sure that you can secure the fundings for your activities.
Okay, so now that you've really filtered down your funnel and you have the key people that you've prioritized, now we're looking at the cultivation phase. For institutional fundraising, it really depends, especially with the experience in Switzerland that we have. There's not a lot of transparency, but we always think that it's important to, where possible, have personal contacts. It's not always easy, but that's also about mobilizing your networks, getting involved with people in the not-for-profit sector to see whether you can have some personal contacts. These networks could be the board, staff members. Ask people to make introductions. Ensure that you have a convincing pitch. That's amazing because people can open the door, and when you're faced with the potential funder and you're not able to communicate the enthusiasm, the reason for what you do, the purpose of your organization, and also the impact that you have, then there's, it's a lost opportunity. So really we always work on the pitch. What's a convincing pitch? and make sure that it's adapted to your audience. So you will not pitch your program the same way to an institution as you will to a high net worth individual. Keep in mind the relational approach. We always say that steer away from the transactional vision. A lot of people will just say, oh, okay, I found a prospect. This is great. I've narrowed it down this foundation, and they're definitely going to give me money. They have to. No, they want to have this bridge, a relationship to understand their values, your values. And it's like any relationship. It's a question of finding that common ground. And I think it's really important to recall that. It's really an opportunity when you're cultivating, obviously, to build your credibility, as Emily said, but it's also an opportunity to understand the funder's objectives and to build the trust and credibility. We're really in a relationship approach. And when you do not have contacts with the institutions, which is a case in Switzerland due to the lack of transparency, and it just functions like that, although there's a willingness to be more transparent. Nonetheless, if you have somebody by email that you can contact, you're addressing a letter, remember that you're addressing it to a human being. Thank you.
Solicitation. So now you're actually asking for money. So regarding institutional fundraising, very specifically, ensure you strictly follow the funder's application requirements. It's not always the case. There are also lots of foundations in Switzerland with no specific guidelines, but most of them have some. So make sure you really strictly follow what they are asking for. Do not forget any of the annexes, for example, or required documents. We would recommend with Abina also to have all your required documents ready and updated in one file so that you can really save time, especially if you're a small team and you don't have time to go like to the accountant and ask for the financial, for the annual budget and so on. It will really save some energy. Make sure you have a funding strategy for each of your projects to share in your application. We realize that sometimes some of our clients do not know necessarily what is a funding strategy that they need to enclose in an application, but it's actually to show that you're looking for funds to other donors as well, and that you will make sure, because you have a strategy for each project on how you will raise the money, and you will make sure that you'll get what you need to start and implement and finalize the project. That's also what donors want to see. As much as possible, be creative in writing your project proposal. Make it stand out. We always recommend to also be creative on the visual side of your project proposal. Think about the person who will receive about 300, sometimes 500 proposals and need to read all of that. If it's just like packed text and not visually attracting, it's not super sexy. Be timely. Make sure you respect the deadline. And we have 6 points for this one, which is make sure to ask for the right amount as well. So try to get the information if you can.
Yeah, so now you've solicited, so you've asked for the money. Obviously, as you saw from what Emily just said, that even in these phases, for example, when you're trying to set up your funding plan, you need to have planned it already in the initial phase of prospecting, of who you're going to go out to get the funding. So this just shows you how it's important to really focus time on every element of the funding cycle. Because if you're soliciting and then suddenly they're asking you to show who else you're going to ask for funds and you haven't done the job, well, you have to go back to square one. So just wanted to add that. About stewardship, so Emily had said it's a point that's very neglected. A lot of our clients we see have low-hanging fruits. This is what we call people that have given and they've just fallen off the grid, basically. So having a good way to track them and to understand who gave, to see the loyalty, to easily be able to look on a table and say, oh, wow, this person hasn't given this year is really important. So what we say is take the time to recognize the new and existing donors in a timely and appropriate manner. Ensure that you fulfill all the aspects of a funding agreement. So with institutions, obviously, there's certain terms that have already been pre-agreed. Make sure that you fill in all of those. Have a donor follow-up tool with deadlines to respect. So that's really important. Be transparent with your donors, even when you're facing challenges, especially now during times of COVID. If you haven't been able to be operational, communicate with them. Again, we're dealing with human beings. They would want to know what's going on, and they can obviously understand the situations. And make sure you have a stewardship plan, which will outline the main elements of the actions that you will do. So outside of the agreed terms and terms with the institutional donors, you may just want to send a Christmas card at the end of the year, or I don't know, a video or something like that. It's always a question of not doing too much because they have a lot of grantees, but just doing sufficient to nourish that relationship. We always say it's easier to keep a donor than to find new ones, because as you saw in the funding cycle, once you have a donor, you go from stewardship back to cultivating them. You don't have to start all over again with existing donors. So yeah. Oh yeah, and there's one point. Don't wait for your institutional donors to ask you for reports. That's not a good thing.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So as a reminder, feel free to ask some questions in the chat and we'll take them at the end. Okay, so as you see, nothing happens by magic in terms of institutional fundraising or fundraising in general. And we often see organizations that expect a lot from technology, be it CRM, social media, and so on. So how do we transition from theory to reality, and how does technology help apply fundraising methodologies, processes, and how do solutions like Salesforce can help you be the best you can be? And to answer this question, I'd like to hand it over to Claudia Bluse from Salesforce.org to go through, let's say, a typical journey on how this kind of solution can help you perform in this institutional fundraising activities.
Right. Thank you, David. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So thanks for having us today. My name is Claudia Bluse and I'm a solution engineer at Salesforce.org. That means that my job is to listen to organizations like yours. We are in touch with organizations in the DACH region, and especially from the nonprofit side. We are talking to you and listen to the pain points. And my job is to identify solutions and ways to overcome these pain points and challenges. And I would like to show you today a bit what Salesforce can do and how we can also, what we can do in the institutional fundraising area. So we've heard a lot around fundraising already, what areas to focus on. And today in the demo, we want to show you how this can be underlined and supported with Salesforce technology. But before we start, you see here the forward-looking statement. This is just a reminder from our legal department to keep in mind that all purchasing decisions that you're going to take in the future at any point should be based on products that are currently available. So some of you may have already worked with Salesforce, but for those of you who are not familiar with Salesforce yet, Salesforce is a platform that allows organizations to get a unified view on their supporters. I just turn off my camera quickly, sorry, so that the bandwidth will be stable. A unified view on their supporters by building a single source of truth. So with a unique view on the constituents, Salesforce supports you and especially your work. So working closely together across different teams, moving away from data silos will help you in the end to be more productive. And that's what we want to achieve. It will also help you to make use of the data that you're storing inside of the system. For example, if you want to identify opportunities where you can grow relationships and use insights to create a personalized experience, so what we've just heard throughout the whole donor journey, Salesforce can help you with that. And in addition, using a platform will lead, of course, to an increased visibility and transparency. That will, in the end, also help you and your organization to take smarter decisions. So how this all may look like is something that we will show you today in a demo, which will be a simplified way, of course, of doing things, but it should give you an idea of how it could look like. We will follow along Anna today, who's leading the fundraising department at STEPS, which is our fictitious nonprofit organization. She got an email alert highlighting that there are some abnormal behaviors and changes within the program funding. Having a closer look at the data, she identifies that there is a funding gap. So what she wants to do is inform her colleague, Marie, who's part of her team, and ask her to log into that issue and find a way of solve that issue. For the first part of the demo, I'm going to log in from my mobile phone. So all the persons, all the users inside of Salesforce will also get access to the mobile Salesforce application that they can use by logging in with their login data, with their personal data. At this screen, you can see the view that Anna has as a head of fundraising and what kind of objects or applications she has at her hand. She's going to check for the dashboards because she wants to see what the latest data looks like. So this dashboard gives her real-time insights on the data that is stored on the Salesforce platform. This might be the annual donation, tracking the actuals versus the set targets. It could also be the donations per year and per different types. And as we can see here, there was a decrease in fundings or donations that we received in the last fiscal year, which is no real surprise, but we can also see that individual giving, so major gifts, for example, were higher than in the previous year, something that we've also seen within the sector. Scrolling down a bit more to the program funding, there is the point that she got the alert about. So the program funding for social program fund and transitional employment program is not secured. So what she wants to do as a next step is inform her colleague Marie, and she can do that directly from her mobile application as well by sharing the snapshot. And she wants to mention Marie. So she just selects Marie Meyer and enters her information. Can you please take a look into this and see how we can close the gap? And just shares this, which will now alert Marie within Salesforce, and she can take further action. And what will happen inside of Salesforce is what we can see right here. So Marie is now logged into Salesforce, where she can see that she received a notification. And she can also see here on the front screen, on the home screen, that Anna sent her a post that she needs to look into the funding. So she already saw that with the program funding, something is wrong. But she wants to take a closer look now at what is happening with the social program funds. Just by clicking on this graph, she can drill into the details to see what is happening behind. She can, I'm just switching, sorry, my bandwidth. She can see in this overview that we are short on funding, but she can also see that there are two different programs assigned to this social program fund, and one that is missing a fund is the heating and cooling assistance. When she thinks about that, she just read something about the utilities sector last week, and remembers that they are investing into social responsibility programs, and she thinks this could be a good fit. So she wants to dig deeper into that, understand more what they are offering, if there are some organizations that might be a fit, and offer funding so that they can close the gap at STEP. Marie, of course, knows that access funding is not really easy, and especially in these times, the competition is really tough. Therefore, Marie wants to be prepared and also see how she can maybe leverage the data that she already has inside of Salesforce to secure the funding. What she does is she moves to an industry network report that she created herself to get a view on all institutions in various industries that provide funds. And of course, what kind of common base they have. Ebony just talked about the bridge, and this is exactly what you can do here. So we can see here companies, organizations of various types and various industries that provide funding, but that also have a connection via common contacts. We were talking about the utilities sector. So by clicking on the graph, we can see we have some utilities companies included here. So just clicking on it will filter the report, and we see, okay, we have two companies, one where we had recent activities with, which is the energy active sector. And also here we can see we have 4 contacts that are linked to the energy active company. Some of them are former employees, but some also are current employees. And we can see that we have here Rachel Morris, for example, who is in the position of the CMO at Energy Active, which sounds pretty good, but she is also a major donor herself. So she is already convinced about our organization and supports our cause. She is probably a good starting point to get into touch and get the conversation about the funding started. What we will do now is we'll just have a check and with one click jump onto the contact record that we have of the energy active company to see what kind of information we have stored about this account. Of course, we have general information, addresses, descriptions, and so on. And we can also see that we have a primary contact already stored on this account, which is Rachel Morris. So not only that she's a major donor and related, she's also a primary contact for this company for us. So it's all looking really positive. We can also see the groundmaking information of Energy Active, which indicates what kind of funding focus they have, which is also the human service area. So it fits our needs. And yeah, looking at this, it looks all really positive. So Marie wants to work more on this opportunity, but to track further qualification and cultivation activities, she wants to create a record to just keep organized. She can do that by clicking on this button here, which allows her to create a new grant record, which will be automatically linked to the contact record that we've seen here. So she just needs to enter minimal information. You've seen that the close date was automatically pre-populated. So based on previous experience, we've defined a target, a due date for this application or this opportunity. And this will be automatically preset, but you can also change it manually. And all the other information that you don't see on this screen, but you will see once the grant record is created, is something that we already know and we can auto-populate in the system. For Marie, that makes it really easy because she can focus on just entering relevant information and does not really feel that it is a huge administrative effort to create this and to keep track of the task and activities in the system. So we are here now on the grant record, and this is a place for Marie where she can store all the relevant data about the process, the application process, the due dates, requirements, or much more. You can also see at the top that this record itself or this application process is broken down into different stages. And for each stage, we have different guidance for success and key fields defined. This will allow you and Marie in this case to really focus on what is relevant. And also because this is based on a standardized process, which we created again based on our experience, this is something that allows steps to generate higher quality applications because they know exactly what is required. They can add specifics from time to time, but they have the main parts that they want to convey, the message that they want to convey, planned and outlined here at the top. But of course, Marie does not want and cannot work alone on this grant. She needs support from a team. And here on this area, you can see deliverables and teams, a place where she can, by clicking on this button, add team members to this record. Assigning team members to this record will also provide, for example, Tim and Sue in this case, access and visibility to the grant, and they can collaborate and work together on all the information that they share here. As a next step, she wants to create an engagement plan, which is basically just a set of tasks, a sequence of tasks that always needs to be done. Again, something to ensure that a standardized process is kept in mind, but it also ensures that you don't forget anything. So here, for example, the institutional fundraising plan, when she saves that and adds this plan to the grant record, it will automatically create 5 tasks that are part of this plan and assign it to the team members that she added to the grant before. When I now refresh the page, you can see that the team members are assigned, but also that due dates are assigned to the specific tasks. All this has been done automatically, and you can see that 2 of the tasks are due today, and they are also flagged in this activity timeline that they are due today. With the task assignment, Sue and Tim in this case will also receive an email notification and will be prompted at what they need to do. In this case, the tasks are due today, but also for future tasks where you're tracking the due dates on this record, you can send out reminders and really be sure or ensure that you keep ahead of the work and that you focus at the right point in time on the right task. One of the tasks that you see here is to do the initial setup for the team collaboration. We've heard that team collaboration, working on one document, on the same document, is really important. So what you can do here inside of Salesforce is adding documents or equipped documents in this case, to this grant record as well. But this is not only possible with equipped documents, it's also possible with other documents or types of documents, for example, also with a SharePoint that you can link to it. What I will show you now is how you can easily link a new document. Let's call it just fundraising plan. Create this document, which will create a equipped document that you can then fill with all the information without you to jump around between different systems. So again, quickly refresh the page. You can see that the document is added now, but you can also see that at the top, there is a new component visible to you. This component shows you that there's an associated document, which is the fundraising plan that we just created. So you can, with this functionality, ensure that you are working on the same version of a document, that you have all the same information available, and it just eases up the process. If we remember correctly, from the beginning, we identified one of the contacts, Rachel Morris, as our main contact. Of course, we want to highlight this contact here as well, that she is an important contact and influencer for us. And we can do that by adding a contact role. This process is now done manually, but you can also automate it, because we've seen she was a primary contact on Energy Active. So you can also use that information to automatically highlight Rachel here as, highlight Rachel as one of the main contacts. I think she already added. Here she is. So Rachel Morris will now be added as a contact role. Sorry. And we also want to specify the role that she has for us. At the moment, she is an influencer, but we can also add additional contact roles or change Rachel's role throughout the process if she in the end will be one of the main decision makers. So by adding the contact role, we will again have the visibility that she is important for us. But on the other hand, it also connects the contact record, and once the grant will be awarded and we have a positive outcome, Rachel will be the one who will get credit for it in the system, because we want to ensure that if she is the main influence and if she helped us to secure the grant, that we keep that information for the future and also value her engagement. You've seen with just one click, I am forwarded to the contact record to Rachel Morris. Rachel Morris is our main contact. But we can also see on this record that she is much more than just a main contact for the Energy Active grant. She is a major donor herself, we've seen that, but she is also volunteering with STEPS. On this contact record, we get the full view on Rachel as a supporter. We, at Salesforce, we put the constituent, the supporters at the center of everything, because we want to drive a personalized communication and interaction. So we also want to store all the data that we know about the supporters on one single record. Here you can see the different views, how much she donated in the past, what her level is, and also what kind of volunteer activities she has done. And I said I'm talking to a lot of organizations, but of course you experience it yourself as well. And how often are we in a situation where we see that organizations do not have the full picture of a supporter? If you get, for example, an email from an organization that is thanking you for your first donation and highlighting how great it is that you are now becoming a supporter, but they completely forgot that you spent hours already and volunteered with them in the past. This is something that does not really leave a good impression behind. With this view, you have the chance to combine the different parts. But we also want to make use of the information that we know about Rachel and engage with her and on this personal basis throughout the whole application cycle and also after it. And we do have all the information right here to use it, of course, in a personal interaction, but also for marketing automations and, for example, for donor journeys. You can use everything that you can see here to really drive this personal interaction at scale. When we now come back to the grants that we just worked on, we want to fast forward a bit. So we've done throughout the whole process a good job, and we could secure the funding in the end. Now we just need to enter the amount that we receive through the fund. And we will update the stage just by clicking on the right stage and mark it as current stage. And we will have a little celebration coming up that this stage has been successfully changed and is now awarded. But this is not the only thing. We also now want to link this income stream to our programs. With the GAU allocation that you can see here at the bottom, you have the possibility to depict really the full life cycle of the dollar. It is automatically added to general funds. of course, you have the flexibility again to implement it or customize it to your own needs if it should go to a specific cause directly. But in this case, it is the general fund first, and then you have the chance to manage the allocation. We've seen at the beginning of the demo that we had a gap in the social program fund. So we wanna spend the full amount, the 100% on this fund in order to close the gap. But you have also the possibility to say that you just wanna spend 90%, for example, on this fund, and the rest will stick to the general fund. The system calculates that automatically for you. So in this case, we said we want to save 100 fund to the social program fund. And at the same time that we are saving now this, and the stage has been updated to awarded, we also created additional tasks automatically in the system that will help you to follow along with the stewardship plan. Again, we have a standardized way of doing it to keep engaged with an organization after the grant has been awarded, and also to ensure that we complete our agreed deliverables in time. For example, again, Ebony mentioned it, don't forget about sending reports to show what impact we've made. And the great thing is that you have all the data stored on one platform. So it will be easy for you to show and communicate the impact that you made. We've heard from several organizations that stated with Salesforce, they are now able to reduce the reporting time. UNHCR, for example, it took them previously 3 days to compile the required reports, and now they can all do it within only 10 minutes because everything is on one platform, and it saves them so much time. But in addition to Salesforce and the reporting capabilities there, also Tableau offers a great reporting capabilities. And one of the examples I wanted to share with you is from the Tableau Foundation itself. So they are using public reports to not only show how the impact or what kind of impact they made with the grants, but also to show the capabilities that they have with the Tableau reporting in form of this living annual report. This is a report that is automatically updated every week and available to the public. You can see exactly the areas that they worked on. You can drill down on the different countries. And let me see if I can now get, let's take France. There we have Switzerland, that we can drill down to the different countries and see what kind of impact they made there. As I said, my bandwidth is unfortunately not the best, but you can see that this is updated automatically based on the details that you want to see and filter on. But you also have the possibility to combine it, for example, as they did here with the SDGs. So what are they doing, for example, to achieve no poverty? And by clicking on the details, the report is automatically updated and will allow you a view on what programs they supported with the funding and how much they really invested in this area. So it's a great way to share insights and promote that what they are doing, and really to allow this kind of transparency that we are looking at. Just to summarize what we've seen today, what I've shared with you is only really a small part of Salesforce and the Salesforce capabilities. But what we want you to take with you today is that technology and a platform like Salesforce can help you to drive digital experiences. And these experiences will allow you to connect with your supporters on a personalized level and really reach them and interact with them. It will also be your single source of truth. So combining insights and providing you with this unified view that you can then leverage to get in touch with your supporters. And it will help you to use the data that you've stored in the system to get actionable insights that will then help you to support your decision making. And with that, I would like to say thank you and hand back over to David.
Okay, thank you very much, Claudia, for this presentation. I think it was very useful to connect the dots and see how Salesforce technology could help apply concretely some of the tips that were presented and shared by Bina and Emily before, and especially how we can help the organization structure and professionalize the way they are doing institutional fundraising. Because this technical solution should support the strategy. It will never replace, of course, the network, the relationships, but it will simply enhance them, and you will then be able to get the most out of them. And I think we have several questions in the chat. Danielle, do you see my screen with the contact details of the speakers as well, just to make sure?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay, perfect. So Daniel, yeah, I saw we have quite a few questions in the chat, right? Could you give us a flavor of these questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions that came in, just going down, was with regards to requesting specific amounts when it comes to requesting funding. So that was aimed towards Emily and Abina. So the question was, how do you know how much to ask for, and if they don't specify, then what or how should you do this?
Yeah, I gave some elements on the chat already. I can summarize. Basically, you can look for the information in the annual report if they have so. You can have a look at the past project they funded, for instance. You can, if you manage to talk to them, this is also something that you can ask, so being a little bit strategic around that. But there are different ways. You see if they have a big website and supported lots of projects, lots of organization, then they probably have quite an interesting amount of money. If you see there's no website, not much information, and it's probably much smaller, so you can evaluate based on the different information that you can find.
Thank you. There was also a question with regards to what Quip was. I know that Claudia touched on that during her demonstration. So a question around collaboration tools. There was also, so what is Quip first of all, and second of all, the ability to link or to use SharePoint instead, or even Microsoft Teams. Maybe Claudia and or David, you want to touch on that?
I'll leave it to you, Claudia.
Yeah, so Quip, I mean, I've seen you've also posted a link to the Quip in the chat. It's really a collaborative tool that everyone can work online with and together with. So we're using it at Salesforce as well extensively to just make sure, especially in this remote environment, that everyone has access to the same information, and that you can track and see who did what kind of changes. You can comment on it. And as you've seen, you can easily link it to Salesforce records as well. So it's a great way to stay ahead and collaborative. You can also use it, for example, to track the different due dates within the Quip document itself. So you can assign tasks. I've shown in the demo at the beginning that you mention someone. It's the same functionality within Quip, so someone will then get notified that they have a task to do. You can then track the due dates and all that online as well. So it's pretty powerful and a great tool.
I think one of the, just to add to that, one of the unique aspects of it is its ability to connect with your CRM, with the Salesforce data. So if you do create, for example, spreadsheets within Quip, you can actually ensure that the data that you have in that spreadsheet within Quip is reflecting exactly what's in your CRM, and vice versa. So if you make an update in your CRM, your spreadsheet will then be updated, and vice versa. It's a nice little add-on. Maybe David, do you want to touch on the ability to integrate with SharePoint and Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, I mean, there are many ways of integrating Salesforce with your existing, what we would call storage system or document management system. it's all about, the process. How do you want each system to interact with the other? What should be the central repository? What would you like to do with the documents? Should it be a copy or just a link? So there are multiple ways to avoid duplicate entries of information and duplicate upload of information. So the goal is really in Salesforce, as Claudia shared at the beginning, to have a 360 view, a unified view of your stakeholders, including as well information and documents coming from your other systems. Because you know that your stakeholders' information is made of financial information, interaction information, a lot of additional elements. Just one thing, maybe Claudia, we had a question from Gonzalo. I think he just left, but he was asking if the component on the right hand side of the screen is standard. I think he was referring to the predictions on the contact record with the propension and the ability to give, or something like this.
Yeah, okay. So this is a component that is using Einstein capabilities. So it is the artificial intelligence that is also part of the standard package. Or in this case, this part is standard. And it is using to calculate based on experiences and the data that you have inside of Salesforce, what is the propensity to give. So how likely are people really to give in the future? How easy it is probably to ask them for more money. And this is, a standard component in this case, but it needs, the layout needs to be adapted as you've seen it here.
Okay. Daniel, do we have any additional question in the chat for now?
I don't believe so. I believe that has been all the questions. I think there was a question with regards to contact information, but I think this slide should answer that. So of course, if anyone has any further questions, you have all of our contact details here directly.
Exactly. Anyway, we'll follow up with you, and I really thank you for attending this event. We'll send you an email with the link to the recording. And feel free to share your feedback, your suggestions for topics in our next webinars. We really like to get some suggestions from the audience to see what you would like to see, what you would like to discuss. We know that in 1 hour, we cannot cover it all. It's quite complex. It's a short webinar, but we hope you enjoyed it. And before wrapping it up, I really would like to thank the speakers, of course, Emily, Abina from A Community, and also Claudia from Salesforce.org, as well as Danielle and Mike from Salesforce.org as well. They really supported us in putting something together for you today. And I also would like to thank my colleague Emma. She dealt with all the logistics and communication aspects around this event. So again, thank you, everybody. We are on time. We are even 2 minutes ahead of schedule. Feel free to get back to us with feedback, with questions. We will be more than happy to follow up. And again, we'll send you an eligibility questionnaire to get a follow-up session free of charge with a bit of consulting to bring you additional added value. So thank you, everybody. Have a nice day, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinars.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.